Hey there, everybody. Good evening. I am Jankret, and I am here to talk to you tonight about DC Worlds Collide and DC Dark Legion. Now, when DC Dark Legion finally came out spring of this year, about a year late from when it was supposed to release, there was a little nagging feeling that a lot of us who played Worlds Collide when it was last out in 2023 had that we had seen some of these things before. Now that we have a lot of Worlds Collide back, we can come in and we can start to look at things like the bunker, which might seem a bit like the Batcave. And we can come into Barbara's room and we can look at the squad dispatch, which might seem a bit like a similar mechanic from DC Dark Legion. We can come in and see that the character models are somewhat familiar when we're looking at all of these individual characters. We can even come in and check out their move sets and see that some of these moves that these characters have, these skills that they have, are very familiar. It is startling when you look around and you really realize that what we got with DC Dark Legion in the spring was just a gutted version of DC Worlds Collide. And we have to ask ourselves, why? I can guess, and I'm going to share my estimation of what happened with you. It seems that what happened is that somehow or another, DC lost control of the art assets to DC Worlds Collide, or they lost access to these art assets, and decided that the best thing that they could do while they tried to resolve that nascent issue was to just gut the game, wrap it up in a new, much less shiny wrapper, re-release it, and reap the revenue, that as much of the revenue as they could, rather than just lose out on that money altogether. The problem was is that Dark Legion released late, and Worlds Collide seems to have been pushed out early because it's still missing the voice lines, even though those have seemingly made their way back in to the Warner Brothers library as they are now present in DC Dark Legion. Why am I telling you all this? What is the point? The point I am trying to make is, I am worried for the future of DC Dark Legion and for the players that call it home. Um, and before I tell you why, I'm gonna talk about another game real quick, and so that I can draw a quick comparison. Marvel Mystic Mayhem also released recently. Marvel Mystic Mayhem, similar to DC Dark Legion, is a gutted version of a different game. It is AFK Journey without the AFK and without the journey. It is just those core mechanics without the wrapper that makes it all kind of make sense. But the difference with Marvel Multiversal Mayhem is that they have their own story that they can now tell on top of their platform, because Marvel and AFK have zero similarities outside of the mechanics that they've chosen for the games. Um, but DC Dark Legion is, as a platform, already exists in Worlds Collide, which is a much bigger, better, brighter, and prettier platform. We have to ask ourselves not only what could Fun Plus possibly iterate on top of the core of a stripped down Worlds Collide that could be as interesting as what Warner Brothers is actually going to do in Worlds Collide. And we have to ask ourselves, when it comes time again for the yearly seemingly budget cuts at Warner Brothers and for teams to get slashed, and who do you think out of these two teams is going to get cut first? And it will be one of them when cuts come up again, because somebody's going to look at the budget sheet and see that we're competing against ourselves. We're sucking the wind out of our own sails. And Worlds Collide not only has the pedigree, it's been around for years, whether or not it was on the market for all of those years longer, obviously, than Dark Legion, but also it is Dark Legion. So I worry. I wonder for the future of the game, and I think that these coming weeks are going to be very telling, because so far the only real new content that they've added in Dark Legion that doesn't exist at all in Worlds Collide is some of the new characters, like Grown Up Speedy, whatever his name is, who is just a reskin of Green Arrow. Um, Aside from those reskins, there's been no new content added to Dark Legion that doesn't exist in some way in Worlds Collide. I mean, even the Jokers as his boys is being, and the cops being reskins, obvious reskins of these low tier characters here in DC Worlds Collide. It doesn't make sense. The math doesn't work out for DC, for Warner Brothers, for whomever to be involved into so not just similar properties but essentially the same properties. So I would say scale back your money, scale back your spending and your investment of time in Dark Legion, and be cautious on your spending in Worlds Collide. Wait and see how this one dukes out a little bit. Don't let FOMO drive you to make any decisions on DC Worlds Collide and go spending out a bunch of money, because remember, this game has been taken offline twice before. But also slow your roll a little bit in what you may or may not be doing in DC Dark Legion, because if you don't see any new content from Fun Plus in the next 2 to 3 months, odds are you're not going to see any new content from them ever. I've been Jankrat. I'm attempting to be your canary in the coal mine on the situation here between these two games that are the same game. And whatever you choose to do, I hope you have fun. I hope you're safe. Much love from Jankrat. Be good to each other.